as I was standing there pleading my case, that's when I felt like I was pushed and I fell back in my body and I gasped for air and I woke up. I opened my eyes and I said, no, 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 it can't be.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Beyond the Veil. Today, we hear from David Moyes, who died unexpectedly in his sleep and found himself at the gates of a magnificent realm filled with love, peace, and profound revelations about life and death.
Hi, my name is David Moyes. In 2014, I experienced what most people would call a near-death experience. And it was the most incredible feeling. I never thought it would happen the way it happened. I know that there was something beyond the veil, but I never thought it would come to me in that fast flash. I had a lot of understanding about death before that happened to me because I grew up in Haiti and it's a violent country. So I've seen death. I've known death. Death was all around all the time. And it wasn't nothing that would surprise me about death. In 2014, I had my fiance. She lived in her apartment and I live in mine. And I remember that day we went out. It was fun. We had good times. I dropped her off and I went back home to my apartment. Around 11 o'clock, I went to bed. Everything was normal. Everything was as usual. I talked to her a little bit before I went to bed. And what happened is that around early morning, I was feeling like in a tunnel, which would feel like a dream. But then I realized it was not a dream. It was very real that I was in that tunnel with all of these people. And what would happen is that we were all in that van, that Westphalia type of van. So as we're going into the tunnel, really dark, I had a feeling I know where we are because I'm the type that used to make some researches about death and all of that. But, I never thought that I would find myself in that tunnel, which were like, okay, only if you die, you can get in that tunnel. But I was in it with all these people going further and further and deeper, which were like, okay, only if you die, you can get in that tunnel. But I was in it with all these people going further and further and deeper. And at the end, there's this, exit and that kind of brightness and light. All these people that say they died, I guess they were right. And I would say to myself, could I be dead? That's when I was going deeper to that end of the tunnel. And the most unusual thing happened. I heard my mom's voice. And my mom, which lives in Florida, she said, oh no, we are dead. And at the moment my mom said that, my body that was laying on the bed sleeping just shut down. Completely shut down. And that's when I stood and I just looked around. It was so interesting and so vivid and so real that I'm out of body and I'm standing in front of my closet. But when I looked to check on my body, I felt like I didn't want to see it. And then I turned and I kept on looking in my closet. That's when I realized, wow, look at all these things I have. Look at all these clothes, this jewelry. And I felt this deep sadness because none of that could take me back to life. None of that were necessary and useful. And I felt like, wow, that's pretty intense. That material stuff don't bring nothing more than material peace, but the spiritual peace is not in material stuff. So I just went out the bedroom, turned to the right to the living room. That's where I had my library. What I saw was my books there on my shelves. And I picked up one. Wonder how I did that. And I felt some deep sadness that I lost all that knowledge, all this knowledge and all these books that I didn't have the time to open them to read at least one page. So I really felt very sad. And that just like, wow, that's pretty interesting that I was feeling that sadness regarding the books, but regarding the other stuff I had, it was none of that. But I wasn't scared. I felt happy, but I was very doubtful. And in an instant, I saw myself where there was this big stage where, bands would perform. And then I could see Earth from afar. And the voice that I heard behind my back said, you need to bow down to say your goodbyes to Earth. And I was like, bow down to say my goodbyes? What do you mean? And the voice says, the Earth is nothing but a play. You were an actor. As the voice was telling me to bow down, there were these curtains that started to pull together to close, like when a show ends. I said, so I won't have any contacts with Earth, none of that, no news, no good news, no bad news. So all these things that I experienced, so what's it all about? says the earth was just a play. And then the curtain closed and the voices bowed down. So I just, bowed down like a comedian on the stage. And at the same instant, we were like traveling. But the travel in that realm is not something that people would think as you would fly. You just feel you're there because it's so vast and magnificent that it's a state of being. So I was there in the realm of death where I would feel this intense love, this joy, this pure energy, I didn't see nobody actually, but I felt I was there. So as we were there, I would get some notions of life and all that there is about some principles of life, about, the human conditions and nature, about some hate, some love. But that was so unusual because what happened is that I had this worry, even though I was in this realm where I was floating or navigating or I don't know, bathing, and it felt as if I was like huge and I could hold everything in my hand, the universe, the earth, everything was so powerful. And I didn't have any fear. I didn't have any worries, but I could sense that I was having something that was holding me back. But yet I still was feeling like, well, you know what? If I'm dead, definitely my people, they're gonna be worried too. And I'm sure that I could come to tell them that I'm okay. And it's like, I felt like I could play with death even. So I was like, wow, maybe I can come back to spook him out or something like that, because there was no scare, there was nothing to worry about. And I felt that state. And I even say, well, I could even go to my funeral and let him know that I'm okay by some sign, like, that I know I'm not dead and I'm there, just they cannot see me. And I would feel all this emotion that what would happen if ever they discuss me, they discover my body in that room, on that bed, laying there, lifeless. And specifically, I was thinking about my fiance, but I didn't really worry because I knew I was in good hands and I felt the intense love and my senses, we were like in that good energy type of realm. So it was so magnificent that it's even undescribable because you once have to see it to know it or experience it.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Veil. This channel is all about near-death experiences and opening up the questions they have about life and what may come after. And today we have something really meaningful to share with you. For the first time ever, there's a way you can actually own a piece of this channel and support what we do in a big way through a partnership with Gigastar. This is an official, regulated opportunity that allows our community, viewers like you, to help us grow, create more content, and potentially benefit from the revenue the channel earns. It would be a real investment, coupled with a powerful way to support the mission and share in the potential. So if you've ever felt impacted by these stories or want to see more of this kind of content in the world and want to help us have a global impact as we reach into other countries for more stories just like this, check out the offering page linked below. Everything you need to know is there. Thank you so much for being on this journey with us.
In that realm, everything happens in a snap. And I saw myself in that big type of valley as I was going, walking, seeing, checking things out. Like, it's a nice area, very beautiful, calm and quiet. And it feels like I hear this music coming from somewhere. And then I kept on walking and walking. And as I approached a little closer to hear the noise, the voice, the music, and that's where I realized this magnificent gate. It was so huge and beautiful. I was standing in awe. I was like, wow, this is interesting to just look at because I never seen anything like it. It was so huge and gigantic and it reached the heavens and, I could not even see the top so much. It was big. I would have to probably lay on the floor, on the ground to look. And as I was standing there, admiring the scenery, the gate, the ornaments, the way it works and the music were playing so mellow and so relaxing and calm. And I felt like I had this deep worry, but then why am I worried? Okay, then everything was fine for a moment. That's when I realized, well, if ever somebody come out of this gate, I'm going to have to ask all the life questions about all the stuff that the world has gone through and then what are the truth behind them, because life is not about survival. It's about truth. So that's when I stood in front of the gate waiting to be greeted by any who, but mostly since my interactions and people I got out in my family from Christian religion, I would tend more to be greeted by Jesus not to be like, oh, well, finally I'm with Jesus, but to ask questions. So I stood there waiting. It felt like it was a long time and I waited, but yet it wasn't tiring because it was so magnificent. I enjoyed the view so much and I was like, wow, that's the place to be. And the music was there and then I was standing there too. And at some point, I felt like I had a pinch in my heart where something was bothering me and I was wondering what was bothering me. So I was searching like in myself to know if I really want to go there or not. So I was like, okay, should I stay? Should I go? Should I stay? Should I go? So then I realized a bubble light moment. Wait a minute. I cannot go behind that gate because I knew in myself as if I came from there, but if I ever go back behind this gate, I'm not coming back. And this would be the end, the final end. And as in the moment I thought of that, I felt like, no, I cannot go for many reasons. I don't think I can do it. Not that I don't want to, but I can't because first of all, what I would say, I thought about Chaz, my fiance. She would call me as we would do every morning. She would call me or I would call her, like, she would expect me to sometime all the time. And she would call me. She would not find me and she would come by, turn it on to open the apartment, turning the keys in and then found me in the bed. And as if I was pleading for that not to happen, I was like, no, that's not a sight for her to see. And not only that, I have my parents, I have my life. These things I was told before that how my life would be. So I don't think all that would be lies because prior to that, people would tell me things that come to pass at the end of my life. But when that happened, I was like, no, it cannot be because this is not the way it's supposed. So why should I die now? And if I cross, I know it's the end, but I cannot accept that. I'm not pleased with that decision because the reputation, people would think I was on drugs, I overdosed or any kind of things. I got shot. Anything would be like a cause for my death since they would not know. And as I was standing there pleading my case, that's when I felt like I was pushed, but like I was very high and I fell back in my body. And as if it was like a loud silence. And as soon as I fell back in my body and I gasped for air and I woke up, I opened my eyes and I said, no, it can't be. Why I say that is because of the intense love emanation that's there in that realm where you would feel no fear, you would feel great, you would feel secure, you would feel happiness and joyful, happy and joyful and all these emotions. You can see without seeing, you can hear without hearing. And with the time dilatation, it's like you've never been there, but at the same time, you've been there. So it was such a great and powerful thing that I tried to go back to sleep again or try to die again in a sense where I would pat my head on the pillow to say, no. So I wanted to go back. And I was like, why would you want to go back? Not because I wanted to die, but because of all this great love and energy, positive energy that was surrounding me that make me feel I was so safe and secure that I wanted to be there. But then I realized, hey, you cannot do that. It's the realm of death. And now you're back to life. Consider that what that could have been, because if ever you cross that gate, that would have been the end. And now you're back. You had the experience. You should consider that as the greatest experience of your life. And as I was thinking about it like that and pounding on it while I was sitting on the bed, and I said, I look, and he was check on the phone. It was 5:30 in the morning around. And so I called my friend and I said, you know what? Let me see who can I call, because I didn't want to keep that to myself. And as soon as I realized there's only one person I could call, it's a friend of mine that live up in Florida, and I knew she worked night shift. So as soon as I realized, well, she could be home by then, I said, let me call her. And I called her and she picked up and she was like, why you call me so early? What's going on? I said, hey, guess what, sis? I just died and I just came back. And she was like, what? I said, yes, I just died and I just came back. It was the most unusual and unique of experience. So I explained to her what happened to me with all. She listened to me for a good 45 minutes. We discussed the situation. And after that, I hung up with her. We hung up and she went to bed. So by 6 something now, I finally stood up, got out from the bed and get out of the room. Actually, before I got out of the room, I looked around and felt like, wow, what an experience I had, as if I changed where all this I had mean nothing to me now. It's like cars, money, the clothes, the jewelry, the this, the that. I feel I disregarded all of them in the same moment. It was so worthless and not necessary that I value my library more than everything. And I went rushing outside to the living room where I was checking my library, and I was feeling so sad and very emotional. So I went and I just embraced my library, just checking on a few pages, and felt like I wanted to hug it, but I knew I could not, but I cherish it. And I looked at it and I felt like that's knowledge that a lot of people don't have. That's why we got a lot of people that are led astray because they don't know. So as I was feeling all these emotions after I came back, and I transformed for the better, in a sense where now it's not about material gain, material profits. It's all about love and care and compassion and relationship, good relationships. And, you take care of the other one, because the God situation is the other one that is God. When we look at the other person, you look at God. So that's why we got all this frustration in the world. So one person says this, one person says that, and they cannot come to an agreement. But in that realm of death, there is no such thing as religion or hate or fear. Everybody comes together. That's what I experienced. And there was no somebody's better than the other, as I was there myself, and I could not trust that I was in that realm, because it was so profound that it changed me ever since this experience. I kept to myself for the last 10 years, and finally, I decided to put it in a book, as I realized there are 1,000 ways to die. And that's why, as I was searching, I know that when you sleep, you die, and when you die, you sleep. And that's how death is. So every time we blink, we die, because we don't know if we're going to open it back. It might be the last time we blink. That's why I like when Jesus said, the person they said they called Jesus, when the girl was dead, and he said, well, she's not dead. She's sleeping. So that's the way to put death. And death is that experience that transformed me, and I'm really thankful for it. And I'm not scared of it. I'm not mad at it. Actually, I welcome the experience. And I think that's something I really wanted to share. And I appreciate that you gave me the voice to and the platform to tell my story. Thank you.